Ooh, yeah, yeah. This needs to be said all the while. We're keeping it real, yes. There's so much to be said.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on This Needs to Be Said TV. I'm bringing with me a friend of mine, Attorney Christine Kingston, out of California. So she's here to give us information. She's not here to advise us, but she has a topic that is very serious, and she has a book that's coming out as well that can help anybody anywhere in the United States. So that's why I thought it would be great for our local TV show to have her on this episode. So get your pen and paper out because we're going to talk about bankruptcy, which that's what she specializes in, as well as pay attention because student debt could be eliminated. Could be, keyword could be eliminated through bankruptcy, something that has not been done since, I believe Christine told me, 1978. And it was part of our rights, but now it's not. So many things slip through the cracks when we don't even know what we're entitled to. So at this time, I want to welcome Christine Kingston, Attorney Christine Kingston, into the conversation. Hey, Christine, how are you?
I'm doing great, Catherine. Always good to see you. Thank you so much for having me today. And I'm excited to share the information because it's not a bad word, bankruptcy at all. It's not a bad word. So let's get down to business, right?
Right. Now, before we do jump into this, because I was excited about the title of your book and then you changed it. So what was the title and what is the title?
Sure. Well, it was 5 Steps to Freedom from Student Loan Debt, which is not a creative step from my little book that I give away to prospective clients, which is 5 Steps to Freedom from Debt. And it morphed as I'm working with different vendors trying to help with a book cover and things like that. And so the book title changed because student loans are a giant monster. So now the title is How to Tame the Student Loan Dragon. I think it's more catchy. I'm hoping that it attracts more of the younger people that are thinking about school. But more importantly, I'm writing this book for the 43 million people that are struggling with the $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. Each person averaging about $38,000 in student loans. That's who it's for.
Ouch. 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 That, I'm sure we know
Very ouch.
Out of all of those millions of people that may need this information. So you and I began our conversations about bankruptcy, and it was a way for you to educate people on bankruptcy not being a bad word, how to reset your life, how to recession-proof your life. Like we've talked about everything. And so as I'm getting back to the television show, I wanted you here because this conversation is something that the people who really need it probably don't have cable, like I don't have cable, and they want to see an informational show that can help them without having to surf through channels to find it. So we're making it easy for them to get it. Public Access 21 here in Charlotte, North Carolina, YouTube, and even on our This Needs to Be Said Facebook page. But they're still not getting the information, so we got to keep talking about it. So you're coming to let's talk about what bankruptcy is, because some people may be bankrupt and don't even know it. And if we're bankrupt and should file, or bankrupt and should not file, we don't even know. So let's begin that conversation. What is bankruptcy?
Excellent way to start. Yeah, first of all, it's not a bad word, right? Most people think about bankruptcy, well, they'll think about people like Donald Trump or Dave Ramsey, or, even Walt Disney filed bankruptcy before he started the Disney company. But most people don't know about the individuals that file bankruptcy. What you see in the news media is Charlotte Russe or, all those companies that go out of business. We just lost Radio Shack, for those of us that have been around a while. But bankruptcy is really for the honest but unfortunate debtor to get out of debt. Now, there's 2 ways to do it. There's called a Chapter 13 where you make a payment plan, or there's a liquidation bankruptcy under Chapter 7 where you don't make payments at all. It depends on where people are at, which way they go, and what they're trying to accomplish, also based on a lot of other factors, income and things like that. So when you can't pay your bills, bankruptcy becomes a very valid and powerful tool that's going to help you get a fresh start. It's like a do-over. Let's hit the restart button, and then we move on from there. It kills debt faster than Raid will kill a cockroach on your kitchen floor. It's a shotgun approach, baby.
Now,
and it's, bankruptcy. Go ahead. Yeah.
We're talking about bankruptcy and how it can, wipe out debt or reset your life. But also bring in some more of the perks like credit, resetting your credit, or actually, if you've never had good credit, this may put you in a better position than you've ever been in. Talk about that.
Absolutely. So when you're in getting rid of debt in a bankruptcy case, for example, a Chapter 7. The Chapter 7 is what we call a liquidation bankruptcy, where you don't make any payments on the debt and we get rid of it. What that means is you're in bankruptcy for about 4 to 6 months. Well, now that you're freeing up your budget, you don't have to make that payment anymore. That's gone. All the debts that are discharged in bankruptcy, Catherine, there's no tax consequences, so you're not even going to get a tax bill at the very end. And what's better is, ironically, bankruptcy will improve your credit score. Why? Because we're getting rid of the debt. So it's the debt to credit line ratio that has a significant impact on that credit score. When we get rid of the debt, it drives that credit score back up. People end up walking out of bankruptcy with a higher credit score when they walked in. Here's what else you get. After bankruptcy, you get offers to buy cars and sell cars and go into credit again. Why? Because they know that there's 2 things they know about people that go through bankruptcy. Number 1, do you have a taste for credit? Do you like it? Number 2, you can't file bankruptcy again for another 8 years. So they're going to get you by the interest. They give it away. They get you to go into debt, and that's how they keep you in that debt cycle. Is even after bankruptcy, you're going to be able to get back into debt again. A lot of people think, what's the worst? It's going to ruin my credit. No, it's going to give you a fresh start, and you're going to have the chance to ruin your credit later.
So some of the things that you have run into, because you've been doing this for a while. So when people come to you and say, hey, I'm finally deciding to file bankruptcy, what was their hesitation?
People hesitate for a lot of reasons. And the biggest one that I get that really breaks my heart, Catherine, is the moral obligation to repay one's debts. And I get it. I mean, I am a product of my own service. The first time I missed a mortgage payment, I darn near hyperventilated and passed out. So I get that fear and the anxiety of what goes on behind someone who's struggling to pay the bills back, trying to figure out which one am I going to pick. I can only pick one. Which one do I pick, right? And what they're doing is that they feel like there's a moral obligation. I signed up for it. I owe it. I know I want to pay that bill back. But here's what I say to that. First of all, bankruptcy goes back to the Bible. It's in Deuteronomy. They used to call it a debt jubilee. You forgive your neighbors of their debts every 7 years. It's no coincidence, Catherine, that bankruptcy is not only in the U.S. Constitution, it's also that it also mirrors the Bible in that sense that you can file bankruptcy one time every 8 years. So bankruptcy is the new word for debt jubilee. So jubilee is a nice positive word. Let's have a party to get rid of our debt. So, but bankruptcy, people are being, I call it brainwashing, but, people are being influenced by the banks and the credit card companies that bankruptcy is really bad. And it's because it's really bad for them, not you. It's really bad for the banks because they don't get any money when you file Chapter 7. It's all gone and written off. And yeah, you've got a moral obligation. Great. You can make a payment plan in Chapter 13 and stop the interest from accruing. I can at least save you an interest rate payment in a payment plan under Chapter 13 of the Bankruptcy Code if the moral obligation is really high. But what happens is people can't afford the debt at all. And so that's where Chapter 7 becomes more of a viable solution. It's the biggest challenge is to overcome that moral, the fear of, and people feel shame and guilt. I wanted to do this. Well, then my brother, I just heard today, my brother passed away. I took on his 2 kids, and in helping raise his babies because he passed and left them nothing, I went into debt. Well, why do you feel bad about making that choice? You did the right thing. You're a hero for your family. And then she broke down crying because she realized that she did the right thing. And now she's going to do the right thing one more time by going through bankruptcy to get out of debt, to move on with her life, because you shouldn't have to suffer on the way out the door as much as you might have suffered on the way into debt. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, because I've been talking to you for years now, it
I
does.
know.
But I can
And I
relate
know
to
you're getting an A+ in class.
only in sharing information. I'm getting A in that. You're my
There you
expert here.
go.
So when people, I get it. I get the emotional part of it, because when we talk about bankruptcy as consumers, it's almost like saying the word sex. You lower your voice, and oh my goodness, sex and finances seem to get a lower, tone of voice. You can't talk about these things. They're both dirty. You shouldn't do them, right? But
Yeah.
if there's a way to reset your life, and because I have sons that are gamers and I'm somewhat of a gamer, when you run out of men, you don't say, "Oh, forget it, I'm not gonna play this game again." You find other ways to, keep your man in the game longer. Or, if you're a bad loser, some of us are, you just reset in the middle.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
so life in a sense is a game, and you have the opportunity to reset it, or to get an extra man, or to get an extra play. We owe it to ourselves to think about things more in depth, to talk with someone like yourself, to say, "Hey, Christine, is this the right way to go?" Now, I'm gonna stop right there for a second, because there's something that you've shared with me before, that when people come to you to find out if they should file bankruptcy, do you take every person's money that comes through your door?
Well, no, I don't. As a matter of fact, and I would hope that some people would walk away with a little badge of honor that I didn't do business with them. Bankruptcy is not right for everyone, Catherine, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's a very important point. The great news is, when you're working with or talking to a bankruptcy attorney that's worth their salt, hopefully like I am, then they're going to tell you when it's not right. Bankruptcy is not right for people that have a very huge amount of equity in the house, availability for more credit. They're making a lot of money and have enough to pay their bills back if maybe they just rearrange the budget a tad. Maybe they're inheriting something soon, specifically within the next 6 months. It's definitely not right for everyone. So while I look at each one individually and say, of the different options, and what I do too in my consultations, Catherine, is I'll go through all the different options, right? Pay it back the old-fashioned way. Maybe we want to borrow more money and tap some equity in the house. Maybe we want to do debt consolidation in a payment plan, and we're going to maybe check that against whether or not a Chapter 13 might be viable. I think one of the things that I do, and I'm not sure if all my colleagues do this, but if anyone who's watching this gets this hint, I do what's called a cost-benefit analysis with my prospective clients. How much is it going to cost me, and what's the benefit? We're going to look at each one of those rocks. By the end of the consultation, they've got a clear direction. What's the right path for them? If bankruptcy is the right path for them, then I start giving them a few things that they can do on their way into bankruptcy. We start planning for that. Otherwise, if bankruptcy is not right for them, then I will tell them, do not stop making the payments on the debts until you know the actual direction you're going to take. Why? Because if bankruptcy is not going to be right for you, then I don't want you to ruin your credit score by skipping those payments. Mm-hmm. So, it's a cost and benefit. So what's the cost? How much is it going to cost me? And then what's the benefit? Sometimes negotiating and debt settlement is better, because if you're going to end up having to pay back 100% of what you owe, then maybe negotiating a debt settlement outside of a bankruptcy case is going to be better than coming into a bankruptcy case under Chapter 13. What I'm talking about is that payment plan bankruptcy in Chapter 13, because I can only stop the interest from accruing, but you're going to have to pay back 100% of what you owe. Now, the good news is we stop the interest from accruing. Some of the creditors may not file claims. That number could go down, but the worst case scenario is you're paying back 100% of what you owe today. So we go through all of that. It's very complex. Each one is different. I never know what I'm going to get. It's like a box of chocolates until the clients, until they start talking to me. But those are the people where it might not be right, is the people that are going to end up paying back 100%. That's usually the ones.
Well, I was hoping all of what you said was what you said. I knew you were going to say that, because you shared this before, which makes me want to continue to share this with people. There's something else that you said that is very interesting that I haven't heard out of all the attorneys that I have interviewed. And you're an advocate for other attorneys to get on board with sharing the information about the student debt. And what is it that you want to share? What are you advocating specifically?
Absolutely. So I've been a bankruptcy attorney for about 10 years. And back in 2010, I took my first student loan case. And what I realized is that student loans are not dischargeable in a bankruptcy case unless we prove that it's an undue hardship. But there's also another way to do it. There's two ways to skin the cat. Undue hardship is one theory. The other theory is that it's not even a qualified education loan. So I kind of stumbled on this niche practice area early on. I took my first case, the Schaefer case, all the way to trial, and we won. So I'm 100% win, 1 for 1. I haven't taken a case to trial since. And so really what I had to do was I had to learn the litigation part of bankruptcy and file what's called an adversary proceeding in bankruptcy, which is a lawsuit. I had to sue the federal government and ask the bankruptcy judge to include the student loans in the discharge. Okay? So when we won that trial, we eliminated over $57,000 in student loan debt for my clients. And I've been training other attorneys ever since, because what I know, Catherine, is that there are very few people like me who file these cases in bankruptcy court and help their clients. What I can also tell you is that I have discharged over $2 million in student loan debt to date. And I'm not done. I'm just getting warmed up, by the way, because there's 1.6 trillion out there total. So that's a very small amount. My 2 million is nothing in this whole world. So I lead MCLE panels, which in our legal community is mandatory continuing legal education. So I go out and train my colleagues and work with them to say, hey, consider these things, consider taking these cases. And then what I find is when I get back to the office, they just send me the referrals. And so I get to talk to a lot more people now about the different problems that they're facing with the student loans. And it's not easy to do because right now, as you can tell from all the things that you read in the media, the federal government is pushing back. Betsy DeVos is wiping away all of the public service forgiveness, and they're sitting in purgatory, and all those applications for the administrative discharges are just kind of sitting in limbo, and nobody's dealing with all of that. And so these problems are coming up. And what I'm finding is that all my new lawsuits that I'm filing, again, the government is giving me pushback. Everybody goes to a deposition. Everybody goes to an independent medical examiner. The government is hiring experts now to try to fight these cases. And people are getting worn down, which is why I haven't taken another one to trial. By the time they go to a depo, independent medical examiner, and a vocational occupational therapist or whatever they're sending them to, they're coming back to me going, I want to settle. I don't want to go to trial. I don't want to be put up on the witness stand. I'm worn out. Get me out. And that's saddening to me that they're wearing them down. And I think that's the strategy that they're trying to employ. So that's kind of where we're at with the whole thing right now. But yeah, I'm trying to train other lawyers to take these cases because I can't handle it all. I can only handle one client at a time.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a uphill battle, it seems. And what would you say to someone who's considering going through with filing their student debt or trying to see if they can file their student debt in the bankruptcy?
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. Everyone needs to start with understanding what kind of a loan they have, federal or private. And then what they need to do is they need to figure that out, because on the federal student loan side, we've got the best game in town outside of bankruptcy called those income-driven repayment plans. So we start there. We start with what do you have? And here's what we do on the Fed side. First is we can get them on an income-driven repayment plan. That will keep the loan in good standing, and the payment could be anywhere from 0 to whatever a regular standard payment would be. And then they can recertify their eligibility in those plans for anywhere from 20 to 25 years. Any balance is administratively written off. So if they can get on one of those plans and it's affordable, go do it. It's cheaper than bankruptcy. On the private student loans, there's nothing. You will either do a strategic default. Hopefully they don't sue you within the statute of limitations. If they sue you during that time frame, it's still negotiable outside of bankruptcy. But again, not much on that side nothing we can do about that. Really, it's mostly the federal student loans that have the payment plans and the benefits. If they try to get on a payment plan and they still can't afford it, then that's when it becomes a better idea to maybe consult with a bankruptcy attorney that might be able to deal with it in the bankruptcy case, filing that adversary proceeding. Bankruptcy can get the payments under control we can buy time, or we can just go straight in and try to get those things discharged in the instant case. Back to the two theories real quick, Catherine, because that kind of ties back into that. Undue hardship. So if you're thinking about a bankruptcy, you have to prove undue hardship as one. And undue hardship is when you went to like a standard school, university, community college, and Title IV funded. You borrowed federal loans. That's like a normal school. And you would then look at, I have a present inability to pay. There has to be circumstances that are present that prevent you from increasing income, cutting expenses, and paying the bill back. And then you have to act in good faith. Have you done everything in your power to increase your income and pay that debt back? Which is why I always tell people to start with the income-driven repayment plans, because that's the key. Every time I take one of these cases in, they're saying, have they done it? Have they applied for it? Have they even thought about it? What have they done? So I want go do that first, and then suffer some more, and then talk to us. The other theory, the not a qualified education loan, I stumbled on that because mom and dad came to me. They had this is a really sad story. I'm sorry. Just everybody, please bear with me. This is a really difficult one. Mom and dad come to me. They'd already filed bankruptcy, and the private student loan lender was suing them in state court. And I said, well, what did you do? They said, well, we put our son into a lockdown rehab facility in Utah, and we funded it with this loan. I said, you're kidding me. They said, no. And so what they did was he was not even 18 at the time. They put him in this rehabilitation. He was a heroin addict. Okay. And it was for high school education. So I'm thinking that is not even what I understand to be a student loan. So I reopened the bankruptcy case, filed the adversary proceeding on the theory that it was not even a qualified education loan. Oh, I'm sorry. And I won that one too. So I didn't do the trial, but it was a summary judgment motion. And we won on that because the law clearly states that it has to be for higher education purposes and an educational benefit. And this did not even go there. Now, the other types of loans, just for anybody thinking about a bankruptcy case on that theory, offshore helicopter schools, offshore medical schools, anything registered in the Cayman Islands, any school you go to where they don't offer Title IV federal student funds, and only private student loan type of education will probably fit inside that genre of not a qualified education loan. So those people that got taken advantage of by those schools have a strong probability of succeeding on that ground. And the law is pretty clear. If it's not a qualified education loan, it's included in the discharge. The sad part about it is I have to litigate to get us there.
Wow. Well, you're willing to do the work. I hope that you have success with getting other attorneys on board with doing that, because what you've shown me over the past 3 or 4 years that we've been talking.
It's been a while.
It has been a while that you care about the people that come through the door. And I hope that this needs to be said, audience gets that as well, because going to an attorney is scary. It's like going to the principal's office until you get to know the principal. And you realize every time I'm being called in, it's not for something bad. I'm getting another nugget of information. And believe it or not, I go back and look at my personal situation to see where I am. What really excited me was a conversation you and I had about recession proofing ourselves. And there was a headline today that there are some places throughout the United States right now that are experiencing recession. And we've been talking about it. It's coming. Are we prepared? So I hope that we get a chance to share that conversation with the audience at some point. But it's made me go back and look. That particular conversation we had is what made me go and look. Do I have a kit? Do I have a bug out bag? Or,
that's right.
Right now, I'm gonna tell you a funny thing. I was washing my hair, and I said, if my hair falls out right now, because I was washing my hair before I came to be on here with you, and
that looks fantastic.
Thank you. It didn't fall out, but if my hair would have fallen out, what would I have done? I would have been upset and hysterical because I had no plan for my hair falling out. And there was nothing I was doing that would make my hair fall out. But as I was washing my hair and thinking of being prepared for different things, I was like, I'm not prepared I don't even have a hat to wear. If my hair would have fallen out, we would have had to like chop some of my head off to get me in the camera. So I'm just thinking that's very teeny weeny, but it's a big deal to people who like their hair. But any part of our life, our finances, where we're going to live, if there's a natural disaster, are we prepared for those things? So as I talk with you, as opposed to being more afraid, I'm more at ease and I'm asking my life better questions. Like, are you ready for these things? Because it could happen. It could happen to anyone. And even if I don't need it, can I help someone? Can I point someone to resources that would help them get out of a particular situation? In this case, we're talking about finances and student debt. So you do make me think, and you do make me go back and analyze, you know, what am I doing? Am I doing things that's going to move me in the right direction? So I want to say thank you for that. I want to also just say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to share with my audience over here on the East Coast that about, you know, things for them to ask questions about. What do they, you know, what do you need to look for? They learn. Get my tongue together. They learned some terms today that they can ask a bankruptcy attorney if they ever need to, and say, hey, what about this? What about this? You know. So I really appreciate you for that. We're gonna wrap up here, Christine. And I just want you to share with people, because you have a free book that they can get from you, just information about bankruptcy. Tell people how to get in touch with you to get that information.
Absolutely. My firm is Surf City Lawyers, Catherine. I'm out here in Huntington Beach, California. Office number is 714-533-9210. You can find us on the web at www.surfcitylawyers.com. More than happy to send out a free book and provide free consultations for anyone in California. And if you need a referral for an East Coast attorney, I've got friends all over the place. So I'm more than happy to find you a local lawyer and get you the referrals that you guys might need so that you can get the solutions that you need as well.
Absolutely. Christine, I want to say thank you so much. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Catherine. See you guys.
This needs to be said. All the while we're keeping it real, yes. There's so